Hi, I'm really excited to be presenting to you my permaculture design for my home. A little bit about me. My name is Amanda Delverdang. I am an artist and educator, and I've been working in public schools here in Greenville, Mississippi for the past 8 years. I grew up gardening, but permaculture has really expanded my thinking on how food production does not have to be as time and resource intensive as I was raised to believe. My goal is really to create a healthy and happy life for myself and my husband. We want to create a sustainable and peaceful lifestyle and share that with our community. So our vision really is to create a home and landscape that's open to the community. Everything we do is to serve others and to create a more sustainable way of living with the planet rather than against it. We hope that our home and landscape can be examples to our children and also to the people in our community to inspire all of us to create better ways for living in the future and, of course, now. So, right now we have two young children. I say we because I'm referring to my husband and I. We both have jobs outside the home. My job is very emotionally and mentally demanding. Having that 2 months off in the summer really helps me kind of like reground myself, but also working outside is something that I have found to create balance and wellness within this challenge of working in a difficult place. My husband is new to gardening, but he's learning to enjoy it and he's really passionate about helping the community and developing a better world. So we've lived in this home for 5 years, and prior to us moving in, it was vacant. So the yard was pretty messy. We had to remove a really beautiful old oak tree, but it was old and it was getting a little sick, so that had to go. We had a pretty big water problem, so we brought in about half a ton of dirt to build up the space and kind of level it towards the road. And then we built a raised bed along the fence that still allows water from the neighbors to come into that raised bed, but it gets soaked up by that dirt there. So we kind of eliminated a lot of the water problems. We have some other problems, of course, and water is still kind of one of them, but time and energy and money and really wanting to be open to this community that we're not from. So I'm from the West and my husband's from the Midwest. And not only are we like, we're not physically from here, but we're trying to be part of a community that we're not from. So the majority of our neighbors and the people that we work with are African American. And so we're on a journey to learn a new culture, right? We have a lot in common, of course, but there's still things that are different. So it's been an experience to do the work of being part of a community that we're not part of originally. There is some gun violence and drug trafficking in the neighborhood. We have tons of weeds, poison ivy being a major one. We get a lot of noise late at night, depending on the weather. If it's a really nice day, it can be really noisy at night. We get a lot of garbage thrown in our yard because we're on a corner and people just throw garbage out their windows. We're using hose and city water in the space. We do have a few water-logged areas in the springtime. We have some poor soil in places. It's really hot in the summer. There's a lack of rainfall during a few months when we're really trying to grow things. So many bugs, there's so many mosquitoes, so trying to plan for how to eliminate some of that. And then dealing with the plant disease that comes with a humid climate. It's not something I'm used to, so it's been a really big learning experience for me. We're currently paying for lawn care and we do not want to keep doing that. And then making sure, well, and we have a problem currently of using convenient materials and resources. So like going to the big box store and buying whatever's cheapest instead of thinking about what is best for the world, like the natural world, but also the human world, and which businesses are we supporting and why are we supporting those. So just being more aware of those issues is something this design is trying to address. There are some social and invisible structures that are important. So I am a woman living in a place, this place especially, has certain roles that they think women should fit into. So, for example, when I'm out working in the yard, there will be there's been multiple times that neighbors and passerbys have said, "Where's your husband? Why is he making you do all of this hard work?" You know, or like my neighbor the other day said, "How can you be out here? Where are your kids?" And it was just so surprising that my husband was giving them a bath and I was working outside. So there's some social constraints. And sometimes you just want to fall back into those and just say, okay, whatever, so like finding that balance of fighting it, because women should be able to work hard outside just as much as men can. And yeah, so just like working through that, being aware of that struggle that kind of is going on here for women. I'm a mother and a wife, so finding the balance between the needs of my children and myself, and really fostering relationships that will last within our family structure, and not letting a yard or a job or whatever else take the place of those important relationships, but rather having those things be things that bring us closer together. And then finally, being an educator. I have mentioned that previously, but it is an important part of my life, and it is something that has taught me a lot about the world. But the place that I am working is currently a pretty toxic space because of systems that have been put in place. I've had to learn a lot about identity and the privilege that I have been raised in, and how systems have benefited me personally, but are not necessarily benefiting the students that I'm teaching. And so finding a way to work in that, finding a way to work out of it also. So the goal really here is to use this design to help me create a regenerative livelihood that will help me create community spaces that are healthy for all of us, and inclusive, and friendly, right? And regenerative, not just for me, but for others. So the goal here is to reduce a lot of the lawn, increase more diversity in the space, make sure that we're recycling water, using it well, making sure that we're building our soil and using compost and reducing energy. We also want to make this space available to others, sharing our knowledge and our skills and our talents with other people, especially children, and then growing food to supplement what we get at the grocery store and Misfits Market, which is a little online market that sells produce that's not sellable in grocery stores because of its appearance. So the resources are many. We have so many resources, financial, intellectual, experiential. We have these in abundance, I would say. We have the access to so much knowledge and the ability to travel to different gardens. And so we have been able to do that and gain a lot of knowledge from that. Spiritually, I find a lot of strength in my spirituality, so that's an important resource for me. We have a lot of people who are supportive and kind and helpful, and there's just no end to the people who have been good neighbors and helpful to us. We do have some time. We have so much water. We have so much organic material, and so many animals. So there's a lot of resources to work with here. Here is a map of our space. You can see that we're kind of diagonal. So north is up here. We have a road on two sides. The yellow are underground utilities. The blue is our sewer lines going out to the road. The trees up here, these are some big trees all along this property line. We do have a fence. It's just a low 4-foot chain link fence. This is the raised bed that we put in. This is a side building. This is the house. And all of this gray is hardscaping. And then the red are overhead electrical lines that we have to be aware of. Here's our zone. So we spend most of our time right here in the house, and then in this annual vegetable garden. We do have a freezer out here that we go to frequently. There's a storage space for gardening tools. Mostly they just get left out laying against the house because it's inconvenient to walk over there. So that's a little bit of a problem. We don't hardly ever go into the front yard except for to get the mail, which is up here. And then all of this space is like poison ivy mess. So we just stay out of that. And this space up here could be usable, but we don't currently use it. Here are our sectors. So we do have some flood areas, some wind, definitely some noise going on kind of all around us, and the sunshine. So here are some edges and microclimates of the space. Most of the property, even though we have these big trees, gets at least 6 hours of sun a day. So we don't really have a problem of being limited on what we can plant, unless we wanted to plant a bunch of shade plants, and then we are a little bit. But we do have this part shade area. It gets enough sun where we could still plant some perennials that enjoy full sun in that area, like a lot of the pollinator plants that we're planning on putting in here. We have some wet spots as well up here. This area gets wet when it rains. It generally drains relatively quickly. And then this space over here also gets pretty wet and will also drain within 2 days of a heavy rainfall. So the different components that we're planning on incorporating is having an herb garden, an outdoor kitchen, a pond, sheet mulching, edible hedge, perennial fruits and vegetables, a small annual vegetable garden, a compost pile using gray water from the kitchen sink, permeable paving for a side driveway, an outdoor play space, rain barrels for alternate water use, and a pollinator meadow with flowers also throughout the entire landscape. The kitchen garden is going to be a pretty key aspect of the space and going to take up a lot of room so that this whole area will become more of a zone 1 and 2 area. So we'll plant perennial vegetables and fruits throughout this whole area and have living pathways of microclover throughout that can help us maintain better soil health and eliminate weeds and eliminate the need to continually apply mulch because things break down so quickly here. We'll also use this raised bed area because it's a different kind of, it's a microclimate that we can utilize for growing different things. So we have like a really wet area, a pretty hot and dry space up here, and then just some like normal area, like well-drained, soil that we can build up and improve the nutrients of with our compost. So that's our kitchen garden. Our herb garden is another important part of it that will get a lot of use, and that's all up here in the front. We have some shady parts over here by the front door, and then more sun, and it's raised up more over here on the side so we can plant different herbs throughout this space and get a wide variety of things. Also, really quickly, we'll have our pollinator garden here. This will still be pretty much a zone 5. This whole yard area will not really be used. We have a small lawn back here, and then the pond over here with the kitchen and the play space all here on this cement pad. And this one basically just being a walkway. So here is a map of the pollinator garden and some of the things that we're planning on putting in there. Really making sure that we're making this look really aesthetically pleasing because it will be in the front yard, and we want it to be a piece that provokes people's interest and makes them say, oh, that's really nice, we could do something like that in our yard, and showing them that it's less maintenance and less care than a lawn. That's the goal, right? That's the goal. I think it might take a few years to get it there to really figure out which plants are going to do well, but ultimately we plan to have a really nice little meadow in our front yard. So here are some other components, just a little more information about them. We are really relying on wildlife to create this diverse landscape and to maintain a balanced ecosystem. The waste cycles are really composting and recycling, and ultimately just using less, purchasing less, making sure that what we purchase is packaged responsibly so that we're not contributing more to landfills and more to sustainable ways of reducing waste. Water is really similar. So we do have a problem in our area with wastewater being put into waterways. We are really close to the Mississippi River, and there is a section of the river that when you go to the city's webpage, it says, do not touch the water because it's full of bacteria from human waste. So we want to do our part and try to eliminate some of that and try to keep as much water on our land as possible, and hopefully be a model to other people so that we can try to be a solution to some of the wastewater problems in our area. And then also, along with working with the communities, we have our compost bin, but we also want to collect leaves from our neighbors because there are so many trees, leaves are in abundance, and so we want to use these as mulch in our garden beds as well as for our compost pile. So our built environment is going to be simple and hopefully comfortable. So we'll build a small roof over this kitchen, seating and table area, and then have our fire pit, toy storage, and sandbox here with the pond going out this way. And then over here, we have our air conditioning unit, which we'll put a table over and have space for more storage and a workspace for propagating plants and seed collection. We are currently and will continue to use technology to inform our practices, give us best practices, but also be able to record things that we're doing and what's worked and what hasn't worked, and how we can always be improving our systems to make them more sustainable and balanced. We try to limit the amount of driving that we do by combining trips and then purchasing vehicles that are economical and save on the amount of fossil fuels we consume. Then using energy in our home, we try to reduce that as well, but also our personal energy. So really the goal of this design is to care for the earth and for ourselves with as little time as we can, so that we can spend more time enjoying the space, but also sharing the space with other people. Here is where we currently are and how we plan to implement this design. This is currently the annual vegetable garden. You can see our compost and my weed bins and all of the leaves that we collected last season. We have found that these leaves have produced a lot of tiny little trees, which have contributed to the weeds. So that's just something that comes along with it, I guess. And then over here is the raised bed, where we will have different perennial fruits and vegetables. So this is where that will be. Then over here we have the back corner, we have our AC unit where we can put that table, and then the cement pad where you can see we already have that fire pit right there. So we're just covering a tiny bit of this patio just to protect the furniture and some of the kitchen things. And we already have toy storage and the sandbox over there. So just cleaning this up and making it look more appealing is an important part of this design. Then this is the front yard. So this whole space over here is where we'll put the pollinator garden, the meadow. This is the path to the mailbox, and this is the herb garden. So right now we have a lot of perennial flowers in here that will replace them and also add some, like, just put herbs where we can, and then also move some of these things around and extend that over into this space. So maintenance of this area will probably be daily, because I don't mind going out daily, if not daily, like every other day, or 3 to 4 times a week, because it's something that brings me peace and brings me joy to be outside and tending to a garden. And then everything else, like big maintenance, will really just be annual. So pruning to keep things kind of under control and looking nice, and producing well, and then just cleaning up that outdoor kitchen and play space annually to get some of those buildup of cobwebs and things out. So in summary, the land that we have is very important to us. We want to be good stewards of it. I personally find a lot of joy and peace and healing by being outside. And I want to use the things that I have gained and the things that I have learned to benefit the people around me. So the goal really is to create a regenerative livelihood with this knowledge, to implement this design fully, to see how it works, to learn from it, to share it with other people and to teach them from it, and then to spread that knowledge throughout the community. So thank you to the Permaculture Women's Guild and to my mentor, Kelda Lorax, for providing all of this wonderful knowledge. I am a changed person, and I am excited for the journey that this has put me on. So again, thank you, and I appreciate the time that has been put into this program so that I can benefit. Thank you so much.